Hey guys, I'm here with Pastor Mike.
Hey, and I'm right here with you.
And Mike, we have a few questions for you.
Sure.
So, this is kind of an easy question for you, but what brought you to Moriah?
Oh, wow, that's a story. Okay, that's a story. I'm a workaholic, if you didn't know, and it's been over a year and a half ago, my wife and Pastor Jerad had gotten together because I wasn't taking any downtime at all. And
Whoa,
yeah, I know. And so they came up with this scheme that Jerad and I would game on Fridays. So we purchased a game, the division, and we gamed every Friday. And at my previous church, it was a little bit rough. Membership was declining, and there was a concern on my part that literally I was being a drain on the church. We were down in youth numbers, and I felt that God was saying there's more. And so in a casual conversation while gaming, I asked him, I said, "Hey, you need a youth pastor?" And he said, "No, not right now." And it was probably 2 months later. He called me up and says, "How serious were you about that?" And that really started the conversation. It was quite a while after that when we really got into some talks. But I just felt God pulling on my heart to go somewhere else. And then when we stepped in the door at Moriah, I knew that was it.
Well, and to add to that, it was one of those things from the Moriah side.
Mm-hmm.
Alvis is like, "You're doing way too much."
Right.
Like he just told me, he's like, "You're doing way too much."
Yeah, because unbeknownst to you, he and I would have conversations while we're gaming on that as well. He's like, trying to do youth, trying to do worship, trying to work full time, all that together, it's just too much.
Yep. And so that's where that part comes in.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's just kind of the draw and a chance to work with Jerad. Honestly.
Which you guys have been friends for a while.
Oh yeah.
And
yes, exactly. We've known each other for well over 20 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So when you got here,
mm-hmm.
outside of the job, what was the first thing that you were kind of like, "Whoa, this is," as Alvis said, like for a little country church, your expectations are different.
Correct.
Compared to when you walk in, you're like, "Whoa."
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a very good explanation. It was different than what I anticipated. When I walked in the first Sunday I was able to attend, to see the stage, the way it was laid out, to see the way that the songs selection that was used, and his preaching style was much more aligned to a much larger church than what Moriah is typically known. It's kind of like one of those that you would not expect what they call a small country church, which I don't think we are, but that's what people say. A small country church is not what you expect to hear a contemporary worship from, and to not see an organ or not see such as that. So I think that was it. The signage was great and more modern. I think that's probably the thing. I stepped out of a church that was, if you walked in it, you could date it in 1980, the day you walked in the door,
Yep.
from the color scheme, from everything else. And this was not that way. This was much more aligned to what you would see currently.
All right. So if there was one Bible story, maybe your favorite, or maybe one that just kind of tugs at you the most, what would that be?
Oh, I think for me, one of the most memorable would be David and Goliath. And probably because I've done some skits on that. In fact, Pastor Jerad and I have had a skit that we've done. And I don't know, there's just something about that story that and time that really hits home, And I just enjoy that whole background of everything about it, and how, David was like, "I got this, God's got it, I don't care." And if we would lead that in our lives rather than these trained warriors being scared to death of Goliath, and David, a young boy, probably 13 years of age, somewhere in that neighborhood, of going, "Somebody's big, I don't care, I've got God," and that's what we need to do.
And any of those underdog stories are so awesome.
They are. There are so many in them, obviously in Scripture, but that's one of them that really gets me.
Yeah. All right. So, what's the go-to verse? If Mike had a verse to live by, what would that be?
James 1:22.
James.
I love the book of James.
Oh, yeah.
I really do.
If you want a good self-reflection / getting yourself beat up, it's a great book.
It is. Basically, I always explain it as, because being a musician, what spittle is, which somebody's singing, there is a amount of spit that comes out of your mouth. James is in your face. I can feel his spittle on my face so often. and in James 1:22, where it basically says, don't be just a hearer of the word and so deceive yourself. Be a doer.
Yes.
And I tie that together with then when we go into Matthew 7:22, which basically says, many will come to me on that day and say, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? And I'm paraphrasing here, making it fast. But by the same token, what it's saying is, he's saying, you've got to do it. You can't just say it. You have to be a doer. And that those two go together so much that that would be it,
And it's definitely... James, like that is such a problem that most church people have. They hear all this stuff and it goes in, and it's in there, and they have all the information, but there's no action to it.
Correct, exactly. And they're not producing fruit, and flat honest, they're just not. Which is another part of Moriah that draws me is how many people are working within Moriah. And I know at times we may think that they're not, but you start looking around and compared numbers-wise, we have a very active church.
Yes.
And it is beautiful to have that. But it is required. It's not something that you can just say, I'm a Christian. Well, are you doing? What are you doing about it?
Right. And for me, it's one of those things, and you may relate to this too, we get so wrapped up inside of our church that sometimes we just miss the actual big picture of what it is. Which that's one thing that, not to get Alice's head too big, he's really good about making sure, hey, push out, what do you bring in them, just work with these, and it makes such a difference.
Correct.
Just going outside of our little group.
Right, and obviously I wasn't here for the early stages of that, but that had to be quite a mind-altering to go into impacting the community, which is our tagline, which is beautiful, which I love, which I see us living out.
Yes,
I'm sure that going from the small country church to living out that was probably a difficult road.
I mean, there was already a groundwork. I mean, you look at Youth and Pathfinders and how they're both pushed like that.
Correct.
And so there was that little bit of groundwork. So it wasn't as bad as what you think, but it's definitely awesome to see a church even go beyond that.
Right, yeah. So. Typically VBS for any church is their largest outreach, obviously, And so church has been doing that forever, but to get them to do adult outreach, to get into the community and not just the 1 weekend out of a year that you do, or 1 week out of a year you do VBS, which is great. Yes. Don't get me wrong, love it. But then what are you doing the other 51 weeks of the year? Okay, and that's what I've seen is more work throughout the year. From the outreach center, working on that and getting that close to opening and things like that. I just see beautiful things happening within that really warms my heart.
Yes. All right, so I have a working title, Slick 7. I have 7 rapid fire questions. Lay back, just hit me with what you got. You ready?
Okay.
All right, what's your favorite candy bar?
Snickers.
Snickers. See, that was... Now, I was told previously that Reese's didn't count, but would it be Reese's if you could add that in?
No, it still would be Snickers.
Okay.
I like Reese's. Yes. Don't get me wrong, but Snickers is still my favorite.
Okay, Pepsi or Coke?
Coffee, but Coke if I have to.
Okay, if you have to. Coffee. Well, there you go. All right, that's what... I opened that after what would your real go-to be? But
correct. Yeah, I get that.
All right. So, what's scarier, a snake, a bat, or a spider?
Snakes, number one, man. And there's a reason that God made the snake, serpent, in Satan's form. There you go. It says it.
All right. Now, this is where it changes things. If you're trapped in a room, which one becomes scarier?
Snake.
Snake still.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So, are you if you could take a vacation, would you go mountains or would you go ocean?
I'm a mountain guy. I'm more a mountain guy.
See,
I love Alaska.
I prefer colder weather, so
Been to Alaska twice and love it. It's gorgeous.
Awesome. All right, are you a morning person or a night owl?
I'm a youth pastor, night owl by far.
I don't understand how morning people work.
8 o'clock only comes around once a day, right?
Well, for me right now at work, it's 5 o'clock, and I didn't know that existed, but it does. There's an a.m. to the 5. So.
Bedtime's usually 1 a.m.
See, during the school year, that's how I am. You get home, and I get off at 11, get home a little after that, and I can't go right to sleep. Right. There's no way. So I am definitely a night person.
Yes, definitely.
All right, so what is your favorite season?
Man, that was winter. I love snow, so I'm going to go with winter because I'm a snow fanatic.
Mine's definitely not summer. I like the idea of summer, but when summer gets here and it's 95 and all you do is sweat when you walk outside and there's mosquitoes everywhere,
Right.
it's just not a great season.
I'm with you because I've always said this: in the wintertime you're cold, you put on more clothes. Summertime you get hot, what do you do?
Yeah, there comes a point where it's not legal anymore. So.
Exactly. Yes.
All right, so if you could have, it doesn't have to be one topping, but what's your go-to pizza toppings?
Pepperoni and green pepper.
Pepperoni and green pepper. See, green pepper surprises me.
Really? Okay, yeah.
I just didn't expect you to go veggie with it.
Well, I'm obviously very plain. Pastor Jerad and I are very close in our eating habits. Yes. If you stand behind us in a line at McDonald's, you'll hear, I think 2 plain hamburgers and fries, and that's the exact same order for the next guy, which is me, if I'm behind him. So, yes, we're very plain. But yeah, pepper and green pepper.
Awesome. I could eat just about it. It becomes as a youth pastor, you just learn to eat.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever's left.
I can, but you said go to.
Yeah,
I can eat whatever.
absolutely. Well, that was the whole trick.
As long as I pick the mushrooms off, because I can't handle the mushrooms, man.
See, that was the trick used to be we'd order all these pizzas and I'd always get a Supreme because then the kids wouldn't touch that. And
Right.
I'd always do that until I had a different group that's the one they eat first. So you're like,
That backfired.
I thought I needed 8 cheese pizzas. What's going on here, kids? Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. Yes, exactly. So, yeah.
All right, thanks, Pastor Mike.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great. And it's great being here, and I thank you for all the support.